These are a couple of things I use to clean the Nintendos. Canned air, Goo Gone, some Windex, Armor Old, electric screwdriver, a regular Phillips head, a brush, and Scott Bright heavy cleaning sponge. Alright, as you can see, this Nintendo is pretty dirty. Looks like he had something there. I'm hoping that's not a water line, but I don't think it is. Look a little closer, you got some dirt. It's looking pretty gnarly. We're going to take this guy apart, and we're going to not only clean it, but we're going to replace the 72 pin adapter in this guy and make it work like it's brand new again. Alright, so the first thing you want to do is you want to take your Nintendo, you want to flip it over, expose the bottom. As you can see here, there's 6 screws at the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Take your regular Phillips screwdriver, give a couple twirls, pull that guy out. I normally pop the bottom piece right here out, squeeze both sides, pull it over, and you can use that as your screw holder. Set those to the side, flip it over, and the top just comes right off. I'm going to set that to the side. We're going to concentrate on actually repairing it first, and then I'll show you what to do about cleaning it. I use an electric screwdriver. A little cheap one's fine. There are 7 screws on the top shield part right here, 2 on each side. I'll take that back. 2 on this side, 1, 2, 3 on this side, and 2 on the back. All these screws, except for 2 in the system, are exactly the same. And I'll get those when we get to them. Right now, let's take off this shield. Yeah, kind of gets caught on the lip right here sometimes. Set that aside. On here, we have 6 screws. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. The front 2 here are the regular size screws, and the 2 in the back are the regular size screws. The silver ones that are on this right here and here are longer screws, and it's very important that you put them back in where they came. I'll show you that when we're reassembling it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take these screws out. Silver screw, see? Sometimes those silver screws aren't silver, but you can still tell by how long. Now we have 2 more screws remaining before we can actually take this guy apart and replace the pin. You have one here and one right there that you're going to remove. These are the same size as the rest of them, like I had stated earlier. Let's take this guy, these screws out. Alright. And now to remove the tray here, we're going to lift up on the system's motherboard. All you gotta do is pull a little bit and bam, it comes out. Not a problem. And now what you're left with is the motherboard and the 72 pin adapter, which we're going to be replacing. Alright, so you want to kind of lift up on the motherboard and kind of push down on the little tray that it sits in. And you're left with just the motherboard and the 72 pin adapter. Alright, you want to take your fingers, kind of push back on it, kind of pull a little bit, which exposes that. This is what your 72 pin adapter looks like. Alright, and typically you'd be replacing this with a brand new one. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to line it up, make sure it's lined up nice and easy. You don't have to push it all the way in just to make sure it's lined up. As you can see, it's kind of on there. Just give it a nice little push. Bam. The holes will be lined up on this side, and you're set from there. Now we're going to put the motherboard back into the metal seating. And there's little clips right here, as you can see. And down here is a little port. You're going to line that port up with those clips. Make sure it doesn't go inside the port. You don't want to damage the motherboard. Slide it in there. Bam. Nice and simple. And this guy lays back in here. You can see there's little line-up pegs right here, which kind of hold it in place. Alright, the next key part of getting the tray back into place is pretty simple. You're going to take it, You're going to lift the motherboard and the shielding up a little bit, and it just slides back on there. But what's important to keep in mind is if you look at the bottom here, there's a little lip that you can see right there that goes underneath the motherboard. So whenever you're sliding it in, make sure that piece slides in there, or your game's not going to come in correctly. So let's try this again. Lifting the motherboard and sliding it in. And as you can see here, it's underneath the motherboard. And we're going to lay this guy back down. Alright, everything's situated. Now we're going to put the screws back in. Alright, and sometimes it's not only the 72-pin adapter that has to be repaired on these guys. I have found that the trays themselves, from kids slamming them down when you're a kid trying to get it to work, have bent a little metal rod inside the front of the tray. And sometimes you can adjust that, with some needle nose pliers, kind of give it a little bit pull down, and it will go and give a little bit more pressure to the cartridge, to the pin, allowing it to get a good reading. Alright, let's go back to getting some of these screws back in. Like I stated before, the normal size screws go in the front and in the back of the tray. It's the easiest way to remember it. The front and the back are the average. And in the center, you're going to take the long silver ones and put it in the second to the back. Screwing that back in. Alright, let's go to cleaning it. What we're going to do here is we're going to take the canned air, which is probably the quickest way to get a lot of the dust and grime out of this guy. I use the straw. You want to make sure you don't put the canned air too close to the system itself. You don't want to get any moisture on the actual motherboard or anything like that. So you want to pick it up, take your dust, and blow it out. Alright, now that we got that out, we're going to put the shield back on. Like so. And like I stated earlier, there's little pegs on the right and left side, right here and over here, helping guide the shield back into place correctly. It's nice and useful. Let's take these normal size screws again and get them back in. And there's 7 of these. Going into place. Alright, and now we're going to put the motherboard back into screwed place. Like I said, there's one here and one on the back. And these, make sure the motherboard and the bottom of the Nintendo stay put so it's not rattling around in there. Alright. What I do from here is give a little bit of cleaning right up front with some Windex and a paper towel. Spray it on the paper towel. You don't want to get it on the system itself because you ruin the components inside. Give a little bit of a wipe right here. Get a little bit of that dust off. Not a problem, not a problem. Alright. And we're done with that piece. We're going to concentrate right now on the top shell of the Nintendo. And like I said earlier, it's pretty dirty. And you can do one of two things. You can take your handy dandy brush, spray some Windex on this guy, and give it a good scrub down. Or, since there's no real mechanical parts in here, or electronic parts, you can take it to the sink and spray this guy down really well. And, scrub it down while you're doing that. So, I'm going to go do that, and we'll be right back. Alright, now the final part we're going to do is take your armor roll. You can take your cloth, spray it on here, give a couple squirts, and then wipe it on there. It gives that polish back that you want. Makes it look really good. Doesn't take much. So you don't want it to be all gooey whenever you send it off or you touch it yourself. So those couple squirts will do pretty good the whole way through. The sides and the back. Make sure you get inside too. So everything looks a little uniform. And then, my friends, you have a fixed, clean Nintendo. Remember to check out my site, videogamerescue.com. Other reviews, blogs, stuff about collecting. Thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.